Hello, and welcome to 10 Very Big Books, the podcast of the century. With me today is my producer, Anthony Jr., Tallahassee, Double Down, Falari.
You really lost me in the latter half there, but yeah.
Now, was Double Down a reference to the famed Double Down sandwich from Kentucky Fried Chicken?
I actually have a great memory. I thought of AJ the other day. This just is a bit of a tale about me and AJ's high school life. At one point, a Popeyes came to our town. We were so stoked about it. We were there opening day for the opening ceremony of the Popeyes.
I love that.
I don't think that was me.
AJ, you 100% went with me.
I don't know.
Oh, okay, well, anyway.
I don't remember that
And listen,
all,
I stand by it. Popeyes is great.
Popeyes
and
is
if
good.
you don't like
Love
Popeyes, you don't like me.
I do like Popeyes, and I do like you, and I do like the podcast. There we are.
And the third voice on the show is Joshua Baker.
Wow. I just get my name today. That's nice. I like this.
Is one J Bakes.
Yeah.
I was going to put out your gamer tag, but I didn't want to blast you too bad.
You don't even know what my gamer tag is anymore.
I know what your old gamer tag is, bro.
I don't think I use it on, because my brother uses it on everything now, because he, inherited all my shit.
It's so funny.
Oh, it's a handy down gamer
That's
tag.
That's not a joke. Yeah.
Did you hand down emails as well?
No, I have the email for that. You can bleep this, AJ. So it was because I fucking love it.
Yes.
So I have that email, but has that name on Xbox, but I don't play Xbox anymore. But he also has it on PlayStation, so I have a different PlayStation gamer tag now. So on both of those, on like consoles, he is, but on PC stuff, I'm. And it's
Incredible.
very annoying.
Incredible. That's so funny. Do you guys get a lot of each other's
AJ.
mail? Anyway, sorry.
Never.
AJ, do you use your childhood gamer tag?
Oh, yeah, baby. You know.
Can I?
I'm using the same gamer tag I've been using since 2006 when I signed up for
Xbox?
a forum. No, I was
Oh
on
my
a
God.
forum.
A legendary gamer tag. Shout out,
Can I say I made the first time I needed an email and a password was for my Xbox 360 online. And I, to this day, use the exact same password that I started using then.
Nice.
So
Bro,
hackers,
it's so funny you thought that.
you can destroy me.
It's so funny you say that because I was just thinking about how I have several different passwords. However, they're all variations on a theme, and that theme was told to me by my dad when I was like 10 and making a password for the first time.
Amazing.
That's incredible. Mine is a dumb thing I made in 7th grade. And then my second alternative password is the first thing I ever purchased with a debit card.
Porn.
You can bleep this. You can bleep this. It was sold on YouTube. It was a plushie. It was like a had a coming out of it.
That's a good password, I think.
And then the third one is a play on words with one of my guitars.
Wow.
So yeah.
This episode, the first 2 minutes of this episode is gonna just be full
Bleep,
of bleeps.
bleep,
Yeah.
bleep. Yeah.
I'll shout out, and then we'll have to start the show. Our 10 Very Big Book stuff has the best password of all time. Me and AJ are starting the show. We're like, what should we make our password for all this stuff? And AJ just looks at me and says, it should be this. Bum, bum, bum. Totally random stuff I've never thought about. I have no idea why AJ chose it, but
So random.
It's great.
So random in fact that I've been told it many times and have never remembered it.
exactly.
Oh,
It's
It
like
is safe.
It's so funny.
safe.
It's safe and secure.
So it's going to be a very laid back show today.
If you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Why? I don't know. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about Cracked Pot Trail. It's one of these Korbal Broach and Bauchelain short stories. My official opinion, I don't know how my co-hosts feel. I don't know. This is not, it's not spoilerable is my official opinion. So if you want to listen, I think you should listen, but I don't know if my co-hosts want to contradict me. I don't feel like there's some great thing to be revealed.
Yeah, I don't think this
no.
has like a plot. Like there is kind of a plot, but we're not really like, we're not gonna be like spoiling plot beats, I guess. I don't know. I think you can still have a fun time reading this even if we do talk about the specifics of like the beats that we hit, because there's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
And I think this episode might be a better primer. Like, I think you should listen to this before you read Cracked Pot Trail, because I did not know what this was about. And I would say the blurb on the back is also kind of deceptive.
I love it. I love the blurb.
But yeah.
Yeah, so originally we ordered the whole second volume, but we just kind of didn't have time. We were busy with some stuff, so we're going to cover Crackpot Trail today, but in the near future-ish, either on the Patreon or another off-season, we're going to talk about Fiends of Nightmaria and Worms of Blurmouth.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so excited for all of these.
So, with that said, let's turn our task to hand and put away our gamer tags and passwords.
I'll never put down my gamer tag.
Just classic podcast content. Usernames and passwords.
Gamer till I die, Peter. All right, you can't take that from me.
Classic radio content, our internet passwords. Bleeped. All right, so with that said, let's talk about Crackpot Trail.
Yeah.
I don't know what the blurb is on the back. The blurb is Steve does a riff on, it's like a Canterbury Tales Donner Party riff. That's what he said. It's what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some gals, they're all on a trip to go see an indifferent god. And the reason I say I don't really say it's spoilery, because basically there's no plot. It's very style driven.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it. Josh, you're the most hyped out of anyone.
Yeah.
Tell me about why you love this thing.
Yeah.
From now on, whenever I get asked at the end of a book, like, what's my order of favorite books in the Malazan, I'm going to start with Crackpot Trail #1.
No
forever.
way.
I adore this. I probably will reread it. And I do not reread hardly anything.
Josh, this is blowing my mind.
I absolutely loved it because I like when authors, in this case Steve, like just unabashedly have stopped giving a shit about anything, and that is this entire mini book. It's just Steve being like, look, I'm gonna jerk it for a bit here, all right? And you're either along for the ride or you're not, and I couldn't care less. And that cavalier attitude, I totally get why AJ hates this, like, or just didn't vibe with it. I totally get it. But for me, it was perfect. Just like how little the audience is a consideration for this book.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, I think cavalier is a great word for it, because it feels like this is like he sat down and said, I'm gonna have some fun. I've been reading. I've just reread Canterbury Tales or whatever. I'm gonna make my own. Fuck it. And then he just sat down and did it.
Yeah. I just watched Lost, and that's what I'm gonna write about now. Lost, but Malazan.
Fuck. Yeah. So
like from the get go, first funniest thing to me. The spoiler alert. Okay, the whole plot is there's a trail. These people are on it, and they realize the plot loosely is that they realize there's not enough food for this trek, so they should just eat each other, and they start eating the artist. But first funny thing is they do not need to eat anybody. They are like max. They are literally from the time the book starts until the time they get to the ferry. It's 2.5 days, and they just go 2.5 days. We'll never make it. Let's eat some fucking people. And they just get down into it. And I love just how dumb that is.
They started eating each other on like day 8.
Was it? Oh, you're right. There's like 3 or 4 unnamed people. You're right.
Yeah, they're this person went on the 11th and this person went on the 10th day.
When we take it, they are imminently about to arrive. And they're like, well, we've already started eating people.
Yes.
I'm not about to change for anybody.
Yeah.
Should we
Josh, I agree. The fact that this is not born out of necessity.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is a comic story, and that is a great comic element.
Yes, this is the Korbal Broach and Bauchelain are inherently meant to be comedies of the darkest variety. And I think if you are not ready for that, if you're not in the mood for that, this will fall very flat for you.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of think that this episode is like a good primer going into reading this, is because I was at some point, at one point besides, spoiler, I guess, the very last page, expecting Korbal Broach and or Bauchelain to show up.
So here's my question for the two of you is, at what point did you know they would never show up? I knew you know how like there's the prologue page that's in italicized?
Yeah.
I knew on the first sentence of the next chapter that I would not see Korbal Broach and Bauchelain for the rest of the book.
Yeah, I felt I wasn't waiting on bated breath for their appearance.
Because Because we moved. So the prologue is in italicized, and it's kind of this wordy fucking preamble from the narrator of this book. And the very next thing that happens is he goes, "Whose story is this anyway?" And then he keeps going. And I went, okay, so the entire rest of this is going to be from his point of view.
Oh, so that's after the prologue. Okay.
Yeah, after the prologue, he says, "Whose story is this anyway?" And then he keeps writing. And I go, okay, so we are in his mind, and Steve would not have us in his mind and have Korbal Broach and Bauchelain there and not be in their POV. So I knew that as long as we were with this guy, we're not going to see them. And I figured that was going to last till the very end of the book.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I just really quick will say the beginning of this book was like the funniest part of it for me. Because we have the prologue and there's like this big quote at the top of the page says, "There will always be innocent victims in the pursuit of evil." And then there's like, 4 pages of this italicized prologue. And, it ends with, "What is a circle but the mapping of each and every soul?" Which is like, ooh, how mysterious. We end the mysterious italicized prologue on this like interesting sentence. And then we go on and it's still italicized. And we then spend the next like 15 pages describing like 30 people. And it's so fucking funny.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
The only concession Steve has ever made, and I will stand to this, the only time he has ever been like, all right, this is for the readers out there, is at the end of this prologue. He then does go, and just for clarity's sake, let's rename every one of them and give you one thing to remember. I was like, thank God, Steve.
So
thank goodness.
It's really good. It's really funny. And and then immediately going into like the actual like recounting of the 23rd night or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I guess they're not going to be in this at least for a while. And then I just like, I don't know, kept waiting for a plot to happen, I guess, which was, I suppose, my mistake.
How foolish of you.
Yeah. And like, it's an enjoyable read. Like the things that happen are funny and it's well written, I think. And I just like, I can tell that Steve had fun writing it. But for me, it just like wasn't, I don't know. It kind of like when I finished it, I was like, well, that was like 3 hours that I'll never get back.
God, that's just so crazy that that's how you feel.
And and I guess maybe I just wasn't ready for like a hangout book time, I guess what I'm saying is that I need plot and I can't read a hangout story.
How did you guys enjoy our narrator?
In what way?
Did you find him likable, or like how he wrote about the events fun? I loved him.
Yeah, I was
going to say, I'm guessing you loved him.
I think the tone was fun. I liked the tone he had, but I wouldn't say that he was like a fun character or person.
Oh, okay. All right, fair. I want to gush about this book so much. I just want to meet other people who have read this book, and it's been the favorite thing they've ever read.
Josh, the good news is I think there's a chance the few Cracked Pot Trail fans of the world will perhaps be able to find you through this episode.
Yeah,
that's what I hope. That's what I hope.
My impression from talking about it is it's certainly a lesser read Malazan cut,
Right.
Yeah. I think couching this in Malazan, like the fact that like this is quote unquote a Malazan story, I think is so funny to me.
It is.
Just because like, Malazan is so full of stuff and this is like void of anything.
Yeah, but it is very much. I think he retains a lot of what he does in Malazan in the main 10. In that, like, he doesn't mind just revealing that Tiny is a necromancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's got crazy shit about them, and he's just like, yeah, no. Oh, and that guy knocked his head on the ground from trying to attack somebody. Well, he's inhabited by a god now.
Yeah.
It's still got that Malazan bullshit flavor,
For
I
sure.
love it.
For sure. Pete, what did you think? What are your thoughts? Scribbling away over there.
Well, I've been enjoying listening to my friends talk. What can I say? Besides, I also feel like this is not Steve's best work.
Well, yes. I wouldn't say I don't think it's his best work.
So would you say it is his best work?
I wouldn't say. Okay, well, fair enough. I wouldn't say it was his best work.
Fucking God.
All right. Never mind.
I would say, Josh, I'm thrilled you loved this. That's how I feel.
Here it comes. Come on. Yeah. Give it to us, Pete. We're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
I'm thrilled you love it. It really was not for me in any sense of the word. In fact, I read it twice.
Oh, wow.
Because I read it once, and I guess I had such little understanding of who these people were and I had such a bad time reading the book
Wow.
that I was like, well, maybe it's because I really didn't understand the characterization that seemed to have happened in the first never-ending 20 pages of listing people and who they are.
Sure.
I was like, maybe if I read this again and then really kind of pay attention and go through the story again, I would have a more and that was a wrong assumption. That was not the correct assumption to make.
I do not think this is one of those, on a reread, I'm really going to get it.
Yeah.
That's not this one.
No, in fact, on a reread, the second time I liked it a little more, but everything I didn't like about it, I continued to not like about it.
Yeah, see, that doesn't shock me.
So, I don't know. I guess I read this story, and to me, this seems to be some of the worst of what this of Malazan has to offer.
A bold statement.
And what I mean by that is...
I'd love to know.
What I mean by that is I feel like this story, Steve wants to try and process something about art, and these different ideas and whatever through some sort of comedic story. But I guess instead of choosing to write a story with characters and plot, I feel like what is this? Do you know what I mean? It's almost nothing, I feel.
Right. I
don't know.
I think I feel like, first off, talking about art and stuff is such a big part of this, and that is one of the reasons I think I will reread it, is to sit and actually think about all those things the second read through.
But Josh, if that's the case, write an essay. Do you know what I mean? I would rather him cohere thoughts into a point as opposed to it really gets under my skin when Malazan just has 2 paragraphs of people asking rhetorical questions that kind of are just going around in circles of each other.
All right, now
I'm like. I don't want that. If that's what we're doing, I would like that presented to me in a different format. And if we're doing a novel, I would like it to be I don't know. I just don't need 2 paragraphs of, what if art's this way?
Right.
I don't know. It just really bothers me.
Now my question to you though is isn't this whole book just a response to death of the author? When you get down to it,
there is
there is a direct through line considering all of the artists are being murdered after
and there's even a thing about the death. They say the death of the artist or the artist is dead.
They do. And I had that same thought. I do get what you're saying. I feel like this is maybe a bit too comedic for some of those things to land, or they could have been more concisely put.
Listen, I got some laughs. I feel like if I was laughing more, I would be like, haha, a fun comedy. But I wasn't laughing that much. So I feel like what I walked away with was feeling like I didn't read a story and that I was kind of just reading some thin, questioning that I would if that's what we wanted to do, let's just write an essay about the nature of the relationship of the artist to the audience, or something.
Yeah. But Pete, writing essays can be boring. And what's not boring? Writing
cannibalism.
Stories. Cannibalism.
I disagree. Reading essays is very engaging and interesting.
Reading essays is engaging, but writing essays can be boring, I think. I think it would be more fun to write a story than write an essay.
I would rather write an essay than read an essay. 100%.
Well, I'll agree with this 100%. I would say, like Willful Child, you can tell Steve's having a blast writing this bad boy.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I do think there's a type of unrestrained glee that kind of jumps off the page, That is kind of infectious.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why I think I think maybe he had this thought of here's a thing that I think about a lot as a professional artist, but I don't feel like getting all super academic about it. So let me just take my points and then let me write a Canterbury Tales and then let me just throw those points in there,
How did the twist at the end hit you guys? Was it a big payoff, or were you just kind of all right?
What twist? That the one person was actually a demon, and then
so if you haven't read this, there's this, and if you're going to read this, maybe don't listen for a minute and a half. But for those who have read, I'm talking about the twist at the end where it turns out that we've been led to believe that the carriage going with them is Emancipar Reese and then inside Korbal Broach Bauchelain, which I didn't believe after about 2/3 way through. I was like, it's not them. But then that the narrator is actually an assassin hired by the host to kill the old lady who's in that carriage. And his whole method of assassination was weaving that tale to get them to kill each other. I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was a little outlandish, even for Steven. It's a little much.
Yeah, it was a bit much. I would say, I don't know if this is just if I just glossed over it or something, but I missed that like reveal, I suppose. I like that specific reveal, or just the way that it was written, the way that this character speaks is kind of circular as well.
He had a conversation with Sardik Thu, and I think the dancer was with them, and they're like, "Wait, there was an old lady in there," and he's like, "Yes, she was she was evil. She bought this fool's family's debt, was gonna sell the child into sex slavery, so he hired me to murder her."
Yeah, I remember the child sex slavery thing, but I did somehow not connect those dots.
Well, it's tough because Sardik Thu, for many, many times in the book, is just called the host, whose name I seem to have forgotten, which was very confusing at the beginning of the book for me. I thought there was an unnamed host who was just there. I had to go back and check and realize it was Sardik Thu. Not to be confused with the other motherfucker whose name starts with an S and is very similar to that.
Yeah. A lot of similar names here.
Well, Arpo and
I
Apto,
created a list of all the names because
they're so
I just feel
ridiculous.
like it's very hard to keep track of them, and they're, I don't know. It's just,
well, that was like halfway through the character introductions. I was like, surely there's only one more page, and then there was like 9 more pages, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The characters do not matter in this story. I do not need to know anything about these characters. Like, they're just going to be names on a page, and then we can move on. And that was where I left it. And so then I skimmed the rest of the prologue. I was like, I don't give a fuck about the specifics of these people.
Do you guys think you could name all the characters right now?
No.
Well, I can because I wrote them all out.
I think I've got the characters. I don't think I have their names. We have the host, Sardik Thu. We have the gruff woodsman, who I can't remember his name, but it starts with an S. Tolgard Vise and Arpa Relent, the 2 knights. You have Tiny Flea and Midge, along with Relish, the chanters. You have Purse Snippet, the dancer. You have Brash Fluster. You have Callop Round.
I want to shout out Brash Fluster,
great
my
name.
favorite character of the
Great name. You have Apto Canavalian, who is the critic who comes. You have Nifty, whatever his name is, along with the entourage. Nifty Gum and the entourage with the 3 girls. And then you have Mr. Must, whatever his name is, the carriage driver, and then the Lady Dantok.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think I got everybody.
Good job.
It's a fucking list, though, huh?
Damn, bro, I can't believe you just pulled that all out.
I do just want to point out that I'm like 90% sure that Apto Canavalian is AP Canavan, the guy, the man who proofreads Steve's stories.
Oh my god,
one
it's
of
such
the
a
people
good
who proofreads.
Bro, shout
What
out
a
to
fucking
AJ.
pull!
Yeah.
And he's a critic, which is so fucking good.
Yeah. So anytime he was on the thing talking about critics, I was like, this is very funny. This is very funny, and I'm sure AP had a great time reading this.
That's incredible. What a great pull.
Yeah.
See, isn't the book better now, guys? All right, can't we all agree it's a perfect book?
I don't feel like there was. All I can say in this book is there are some jokes. That's what I would tell you.
There are some jokes. You know what there's also in this book is some fucking. And you know what I was not prepared for?
We should talk about it. This is easily, there's some more sex to come in the series. Easily the most sex we've ever read from Steven Erikson.
So, and this is what one of the things I want to bring up about the fact that the sex scenes are written by the probably somewhat unreliable narrator.
Somewhat.
So like, he writes this scene of the narrator having sex with Relish Chanter, and it's like this, bestial, violent affair where they are just like in the midst of fucking also beating the shit out of each other. And it's just this, and I'm like, buddy, I don't know.
I love when they come back to that and they're like, hey, do you want to have another role? And they're like, I don't know. We nearly killed each other last time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it could be fun. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was interesting. Pete, you have a thought?
Interesting, Josh. I read that as more having to do with kind of equating a type of carnal desires of like that this sex is also like eating people,
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I don't know. That's how I read that. But I kind of like your take that. Are you saying like maybe they didn't have sex or that's just his spin on their sex?
But it was just like, I just don't even know like what kind of sex Steve has had in his life where he's like actively fighting during it, Like that's just kind of a weird take on the act.
I feel like I mean it's our unreliable narrator, right? I feel like it is I'm
sure it was nothing like this.
Right. This is what he thinks sex should be like. And so he's just like, look at my prowess. I can like spin her around by her ankles. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. He's like in that one scene, he is like fucking ripped if he's doing all that stuff.
Yeah. It's like he's only ever heard people like fuck really hard. And it's like, this must be what's going on.
It sounds really violent, so I guess that's what we gotta do.
Right.
It sounds like they're attacking each other.
Yeah.
I've only seen it from afar.
Right.
But this doesn't compare to the scene where, what's her name? I had it a second ago. Purse Snippet wraps around him, takes his cock with her foot, and then one hand on balls, one hand in butthole, and then is there for 3 seconds and then is gone. And she's like, you'll get more of this if the story's good. I was like, what the fuck? I did not, Steve, I wasn't ready. I was as unprepared for the finger and butt as the narrator was.
Speaking of the storytelling, so part of the shtick is that they're all telling stories. That's like how they're deciding in a sense. And I gotta say, one of the better parts of the story for me was the poetry.
Oh yeah. Now you're talking about the sung poetry by Brash Fluster, right?
Yeah.
Really, just really good stuff. Every time we get into the verse of like them doing because when they're telling the stories in not verse, it's like whatever, I don't really care. But the verses that are like written purposefully to be bad are very funny and good, in my opinion.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I don't know, it's great.
Yeah,
that stuff works for me. Yeah. Can that stuff sustain a whole short story? To me,
that's
no.
the question. That's the question.
I think there was like the perfect amount of that specific stuff in this.
Oh, I agree. That didn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say the implication with that didn't overstay its welcome being the rest of the story did. I will say this story could be like 40 to 50 pages at least shorter.
I agree.
And I think I would have enjoyed it more. I kept feeling I was like checking where the end of the story was. And I was like, I still somehow have 100 pages left. Every single time I looked, I was like, how do I still have 100 pages left?
There's this book. Yeah, I do agree. That was the one thing for me was I read the first 100 pages in like one go. And I was like, whoo, probably like 2/3 of the way done. And then no,
like 1/3 almost.
Yeah, a third of the way done. That was that first third's a slog. I think it gets better at the halfway point.
Yeah, I agree. The opening is a bad. I would almost say calamitous. I don't know. I mean, I know it's mirroring a type of style thing, but like just to open with listing all the characters is really tough.
I think
I think it's a tough sit.
I think it's also incredibly necessary, personally.
To me, I think that is the best part of the story because I think that is the part. I think that is the part of the story that's like. It's telling you right up front, like, none of this matters. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I read the first few pages of the character introductions and then the rest I just barely read. I was like, here's a name. OK, I'm going to keep going because, like, obviously there is no way a real human is like, hey, remember all these people and the things that are happening in their lives. Like, there's no way that Steve was like, hey, this is you actually need to know stuff about these people. And it just felt like, we have this person telling this story. And they just feel like this is how they have to introduce all of these characters. And like, I don't know. And I just thought it was really, really funny. I really dug it.
I do not understand your point whatsoever, but I'm glad you dug it.
I nodded and said, yeah.
Look, Steve's just having fun, I think.
He is.
And he's poking fun at his own stories that like, here's 40 characters that I want you to know and you will know them. And I don't know. And the whole idea of like the Canterbury Tales and stuff with the characters and whatnot. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was good. The beginning.
I mean, I do think it's a table setting piece and setting the table in a similar way as the Canterbury Tales, as you said. But here's the real question. If our show had existed, do you think we would have got a call out in this,
If any of his books, it would be in a Korbal Broach book,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I like to think that Peter would have been Nifty Gun and the three of us, the entourage.
Nice.
That's funny.
I just love that Brash Fluster is funny and good, and then he also wins the artist of the century thing.
Yeah. Up and coming.
Is he good? His songs are very bad.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, good in the sense that it's funny.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny because his songs are all bad, and then he's talking to what's his name, the speaker at one
The
point.
narrator whose name is dumb. It's like Fizz or something.
Yeah, I can't think of what it.
Yeah, I totally forget
Ava
as well. It's
Didion
Fizz something.
something.
Fifth,
Yeah,
maybe?
that's like that. And
Flicker.
Yeah, talking to Flicker, and it's like people never let me get to the good parts. They only ever hear the bad parts, which is just really funny.
Yeah.
Because like, hey, dude, I think that maybe just means you don't tell good stories.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I like when he does the like Animander story for kids. Very good.
God, really funny.
Oh my god.
Yeah, here's Fisher Keltast's Animandrus for children. Jesus Christ. Very funny. And then
Or
he
was
does
it the Tales of
Folly
Gothos?
as well.
Yeah, as a lullaby.
Oh my God, it's so good. One thing that this book did make me think of, I haven't read a lot of books in my life, but at one point I was pretty into this author, Douglas Copeland, who is also a Canadian author. Wow. But he wrote this.
Wow.
He wrote this book.
Could you imagine two authors?
He wrote this book called Generation A, which is about like 5 or 6 people or something. I read it in like 2013, so I don't know if it's actually good or not.
I feel that.
It centers around this same idea of like, by the end of this book, people are just telling stories within the book. And it is very much a book about like how stories are told and whatnot, and the importance of, you know, art in this way. So in my head, I was drawing a parallel there, and it's kind of making me want to reread it. And honestly, they're about the same length. If I'm being totally honest with you, this book is about the same length as the
Wow.
Korbal Broach story. But so that's just a fun little parallel. Maybe I'll drop a book depository link or a Thrift Books link or something in the show notes.
Well, since if we're plugging similar books, of course, Hyperion, a great novel.
Man, it's always on my list, Pete. I see it in bookstores all the time. I had a used version. I just never got to it.
It's one of those books, though, that I read for a long time, called it one of my favorite books. And then recently I learned the author's like a bad dude.
Yeah.
I forget what he's a bad dude about. It's about some subject, but I forget. I don't know. It's still a great book, though.
So buy it secondhand.
Yeah.
Thriftbooks.com. Great website for secondhand books. This episode.
Did you guys ever read any of those? Speaking of authors who have stepped in it,
Sure.
did you guys ever read any of those Ender Games book?
No.
I've learned about myself in the last few years that I'm actually very hard not into sci-fi.
Wow.
Interesting. What do you mean by that? I feel like I've become more curious about sci-fi than ever.
I know, and I really think I should, but like my fiance watches all of these she's very into this new show called Upload. And she watched The Feed. She watched like anything that has to do with like cool sci-fi shit, and I dislike it immensely. Almost exclusively. And I do not know why.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm in agreement. I mean, listen, sci-fi is interesting. I'm not trying to. It's such a broad thing. It's in some ways a useless genre, nomenclature. But I will say, definitely, I'm really stoked when orcs show up. You know, whatever the scenario is, if orcs and axes are around, I'm like, hell yeah. And I don't feel that way about spaceships. If a spaceship's around, I'm kind of like, whatever.
Sure.
You know, but instinctively, if someone turns into a dragon, it's a better book.
Agreed, Pete.
Have either of you seen Matt Damon's The Martian?
Yes, The Martian's great. The Martian's really good. I like that.
Yeah, Martian's good, but what if there were orcs on Mars?
I'm just saying,
Instantly, I'm like, sounds like a better movie.
Yeah, I think The Martian is a really good example of like science fiction that's just like, hey, here is a whole bunch of like quote unquote actual science, and like that's what the whole story is. The movie is pretty much like beat for beat the book, but there's no like no one's shooting lasers or anything. It's just this dude on Mars planting, you know, potatoes, and then there's a bunch of science.
I'm so sorry. Oh, my fiance has texted to inform me that I did enjoy Altered Carbon season 1. So she's not wrong. I did really like Altered Carbon season 1.
I believe Neil deGrasse Tyson today tweeted like, you know, Bruce Banner would have just died in 3 days from gamma radiation. And
fun.
See, that's that shit.
At a certain point, science guys, you need to take a step back. You know,
I saw it was a clickhole article written by Neil deGrasse Tyson. That was like, in the grand scheme of the universe, a 17-year-old and a 61-year-old are basically the same age. It's just like talking about like, you know, how he wants to date his students or whatever. It's just very funny.
That's funny. I did not know.
Yeah, check out that clickhole article if you haven't.
Anyway, back to the Crackpot Trail. As I said, very loose show for us today.
Yeah.
AJ, which one of these? I've claimed Brash Fluster for my own. Which one of these characters? Any catch your eye? I also liked the Knights. I thought they were kind of funny.
I liked Brash Fluster for sure. I enjoyed the recounting of the tale. I think the Chanters are my favorite as a unit, because I mean Flea and Midge are basically the same character, and they only exist for Tiny to say "right, guys," and for them to go right.
Which so
I
good.
think is a really funny bit that did not get old for me.
Josh, in a way, it's funny that you haven't read Willful Child, because this is so adjacent to those.
This is
I don't know. They share immense similar DNA of just Steve going for a kind of just nonstop comedy, kind of absurdist almost.
I do need to read that book. I know you guys have talked.
Do you want mine?
Sure, yeah, it sounds great.
Nice. I've been trying to get rid of them.
Wonderful.
Star Trek's good. I feel like I should get into. Anyway, that's a whole separate
Star Trek
conversation.
is good.
Just with me, we watched Star Trek 4 for the Patreon. Had an awesome time. Can't wait.
That's the thing.
Would watch it again.
I don't know if we're just watching the good stuff, but like every Star Trek thing I watch, I'm like, that was fun. You know, it did exactly what I needed it to be.
I'm like, another banger. You did it, Gene. You know.
You did it, Gene. Let's not give him too much credit.
All right. Josh, what do you got? What do you got for me?
Favorite character? Arpo Relent.
Arpo Relent.
The Well Knight.
Very good.
Because he's a fucking idiot throughout. He's just a big dumb dummy the whole time. He's never really sure what to be doing at any moment. There's like that whole moment where it gets very tense between the Chanters and the Well Knight, and Togard Vise and the Hunter. And it takes Arpo a long time to catch on that, like, hang on a minute. Then he has to like get his axe out, but it takes him like fucking forever. I love that scene. And then he does hit his head, go unconscious, wake up, ride his horse backwards, and just jerk off the rest of the book.
Jerk off the whole time.
And you know what? There's a part of me that's like, I can see it, you know? You're just kind of like, what's going on? What's this? I like this. I'm a fan of this. And like, Steve writes that he like beats it like 4 times in a row, and then he's just like, it's not working anymore. Love. Yeah. It's just so stupid and so crass, and like, but also Steve writes so fucking poetically all the time that it's like weird to see him write those words too. So I think it just like,
Josh, you should read Willful Child.
For me. Yeah, I know.
No, I agree, Josh. So in a way, it's like, oh, Steve, I didn't know.
Dirty bird.
I didn't know you were dirty like that, Steve. You know?
Yeah.
Unless you have anything more to say, I think we should end this off with the back of the book blurb and then see how we all feel about it.
Oh, I'm ready.
Sure, hit me.
All right. On the run and pursued by those defenders of decency, sanity, and civilization, the Nehemonthani, the 2 necromancers make haste across a desolate wasteland, and the trail they follow is transformed into a tortured path of deprivation.
Oh, man, I don't think Steve wrote that.
Yeah, actually.
I mean, maybe Steve wrote it, but that's one of those things where it's, but to be fair, it's like, how do you pitch this thing, you know?
Yeah.
20 characters who we do not need to know are walking toward a place where they are.
Even if you pitched it as what it is, like an absurd cannibalistic comedy about the nature of art.
Wow, Pete.
You know, it's like, I don't know. That's nothing. You know, that's people would then not that they probably wouldn't think that this is what they're getting anyway. You know. But
yeah, and I don't think Steve is one to put the themes of his book in the blurb, you know?
No, it would be weird to do that.
Yeah. It's just I read it when I first got the book, obviously, and then I read the story, and then I read it again afterwards, and I was like, were they there secretly? Were they secretly in this caravan and we just didn't know about it? But it's good to know that upon reading it a second time, Pete, that you didn't get anything more out of it, because I think that would be the only reason I would read this again, is like, maybe they were secretly there the whole time. I don't know.
I definitely got a little more out of it. I definitely enjoyed it more.
Sure.
But overall, I'm still pretty cool on it. And that, I don't know. I feel like I was pretty harsh on the show, but I will say this. I'm glad Josh loved it. I know there are fans of it. I will say, I don't know, read 50 pages of it if you get a copy of it. I mean, I agree. If you're not locked into what it's doing, I don't think reading more of it's gonna.
Yeah.
You certainly get the idea after the first night.
Yeah, but I would definitely say read past the long introduction of characters because that's
For sure.
I don't know, Josh. Do you have any other thoughts about this top Malazan book of all time for you?
It's perfect for people who like it, and it's I just think Malazan's such a divisive series already, and I didn't think Steve could make a more divisive book in it, and he did.
Yeah.
So
Josh's hot take: if you like it, you'll love it.
yeah. That sounds like a shitty pizza ad. Papa John's, if you like it, you'll love it.
Yeah. I've been taking the train into New York for a job, and I went through Trenton, New Jersey, and there's a big bridge in Trenton, New Jersey that says Trenton makes, the world takes, which I think is a wild catchphrase for a city.
Very dystopian.
It's extremely, and
It feels like a call to arms by a revolutionary group within Trenton, New Jersey.
On the side of this bridge. It's in huge letters. It's crazy. Anyway, sorry. I thought
100%. It sounds like it's there to foment resentment.
Yeah.
Against the outside world.
We have an occupier state. Trenton must revolt.
Anyway.
Wow. To be fair, I don't know shit about Trenton politics, so maybe there's a good, some reason to that shine.
I'm sure maybe during the Industrial Revolution, it was some sort of mecca for they made cogs or something. I don't know, dude.
But I can't even think of a positive spin on that phrase. Do you know what I mean? It purely sounds.
Oh no, for sure. It's Trenton versus the world. I think that's the only takeaway. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I listen. I really enjoyed the first collection of Bauchelain and Korbal Broach stories, so I look forward to reading the other ones because I mean, I don't know. I think the other ones are some of the better stuff Steve's written. I don't know. I always feel that about his shorter stuff, that it's really strong.
Yeah.
I just don't think this one clicked for me. So I would definitely say, I don't know. I'm looking forward to reading Fiends and Nightmare, especially since this one kind of teases what they're up to.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
I think it goes into the next one, which is that he doesn't do any other time.
Yeah,
He does a couple. He at the end of each of these stories, he teases some next story, the one where they were on the boat, The Leaves of Laughter's End, I think, where they're on the boat at the end. There's some sort of sea monster or something that is chasing them.
Yeah,
there's some other boat that's chasing them. But then we never.
Yeah, but this one literally goes into the next short story.
Yeah, because the next short story there was a it directly is connected to it.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah, that's the worms of whatever, I think.
Blurmouth.
No, I think it's Fiends of Nightmare.
Fiends of Nightmare.
Oh, you're
is the
right.
next
You're right.
one,
The
yeah.
first one's the worms. Yeah.
But
The first one's Worms? I thought Worms was 6.
in this collection, it's Worms, Crackpot Trail, Nightmaria.
Yeah, this collection.
Are you kidding me?
It's right there.
Because this is the middle of
Worms.
its 3 books.
Damn, bro. I thought, okay, well, whatever. We recorded it and read it, so
No, we've not read Worms yet.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
what I mean this one, I thought we were recording number 4, but I guess
No, yeah.
thought
I think
Trail was
the
4th.
order that they're in is not the publishing order. That's not the order they came out.
What the fuck is up with that?
I don't know. I
Crackpot
assumed
Trail-
you knew. When you told me we were reading the middle one, I was like, whatever, sure.
Yeah, well, Crackpot Trail came out in 2009, and then Worms came out in 2012. So this is the 4th published one.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
And then
I
Nightmare.
wonder why they're published that way. I guess when we read Worms, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because starting off this collection with this story, I don't think is a hot idea.
That's probably the correct call. That was probably, if that was the publisher's call, right call.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Steve's call. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete. I'm looking forward to the other 2. I think if this weren't a Korbal Broach and Bauchelain story, I would like it a little more. If it weren't couched in that, if it were just here's another story that Steve wrote, which I don't know, less than halfway through, I was this is just another story. We don't need to call this we don't need to couch this in Korbal Broach and Bauchelain, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I enjoyed hearing Josh's perspective, as obviously I didn't really say anything for the first half of the show. So, other cracked pot heads out there, why don't you write in?
Yeah.
I would love to hear the hot
Cracked
hot
pot heads
pot
is
takes.
not a great
Cracked
phrase.
pot heads is really good, actually.
I didn't know that's how I said it, but it's what came out now, isn't it?
Yeah, send us your emails, send us your discords. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
No.
Is that about it for today?
That's it for today.
That's it for today. Next week,
There'll be something.
Yeah, we'll see.
it's a mystery.
I'm not
And that's
going to
not-
leave that part in.
Okay, AJ just cut out something because they're a tyrannical producer. I tried to have a sign off. AJ refused to put it in the show.
Next week, there will be another episode of the podcast. So we look forward to seeing you then.
Potentially.
Well, there'll be an episode.
I'm tired. Let's get out of here.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.